Hello, how's it going, guys? It's me, Steve, and welcome to the Oye Cinema Club. Today, we're going to be reviewing the incredible film Encanto, and it was my pick. And I am here with your lovely, lovely host. We have Michaela and JP. We have Jason Eccles. We have El Don Dino. Don't call him Bruno, and me, Steve, of course. And we are going to be talking about our first impressions of the movie, plot points of the story, favorite characters, scenes, music stuff, and of course, we're gonna finish with final thoughts. We're gonna have a lot of awesome things here for you. So, Encanto, we're now doing this new series where our people are picking the next film. We're putting two films, and it's up to us to vote for what is going to be the next film. And the movie that won was Encanto. So this film, I actually haven't watched it. So it was my first time watching it, but I heard so many great reviews about it that I was like, I need to watch this movie. And Encanto in particular, at first, for the very first time before watching the movie, I thought the movie, no joke, was going to be completely about Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico is known as the Enchanted Island, aka La Isla del Encanto. But it's not about it. It encompasses pretty much, in a way, everybody in the Hispanic, Latin America, Latinx community, Boricua, Dominican, Caribbean, everybody that's pretty much like Spanglish speaking. It's encompassed in this. It's like kind of put together in this movie, and I enjoyed a lot of the movie. But before I get into my first impression, I want to know what your first impression was like in this movie, and I definitely want to start with someone that could feel possibly like a person looking in, that they might not be fully Latino, but they're acclimated with the Latino community, and that is Jason Eccles.
Who, me?
Yes,
Uh,
you.
so my first impressions of this movie was a positive one, man. I liked it like right from the start. There's a lot to like about it. It's funny. It fits right into like the whole Disney verse, if you will. It was a fun movie. It was enchanting. It was funny. And this movie, the animation style of it was pretty cool, and it did something it did something with the lighting that I've never quite seen in animation before. Like, I guess the software is getting better with these 3D animated films because like the shine on the hair and stuff like that. It was they're like using new graphic cards over at Pixar or something. But yeah, it was pretty incredible. Nothing but positivity. And if anything from this film stands out, there's a lot that stands out. But if anything stands out, it's the music, which was fantastic. So yeah, my first impressions of this film were pretty positive, and it got me all in the feels, and it got me all up in my got me up doing the merengue for a little while I was listening to it. And the lyrics are awesome, and I'm like trying to listen with a really keen ear because a lot of it's fast and it flows really well. Good film, man. I dug it. Dug it. Probably the best animated feature I've seen this year. If not, it's probably the best animated feature of the year.
Thank you for that. And just to say that, to touch on the point, one of the points that you said, because you said many fantastic things about the movie that I definitely want to dig into deeper, was for sure the animation. Because for the longest time, at least I was, and I know a lot of people from the Latino, Caribbean, Hispanic, all that community, they were waiting for a film of this magnitude. And the fact that we got not only this incredible story, but the type of animation that was in this movie, it really speaks volume to just the amount of people that I feel that watched this movie and probably watched it more than one time just because it's so good. It's so freaking good. But let's go with Michaela.
This is not my first time watching it. It's actually my second time. And this time I really, really got into like not only how like in depth they really went into this film, like they went in depth, just like each of the characters like emotional lives and like what they have to struggle through in order to like save the Encanto. It is a really beautiful film. And I think that there's a reason why it's getting the response that it's been getting. I think this is going to be a very important part of pop culture going forward.
Thank you for that, Michaela. And yeah, I do agree. Like this movie feels extremely important. And what even shocks me about this film is how it's lengthy, but it's not. You know, it
Hmm.
felt like it kind of left you wanting more, and that's what I really also enjoyed about this film, even as a first time watcher. And definitely, it's definitely not gonna be my last time. I'm definitely gonna watch this movie a lot, and I'm not really a big musical fan, but this movie really speaks volumes. Now, Dino, tell us your first impression.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think I've just had a weird day, so I didn't go in with the super happy
Oh
watching it,
no.
and I just so I started watching it in Spanish actually because my mom was in the office. This is her office, and so I was like, "Papi, I don't get Encanto." So until mom is done with the office, ¿quieres ver? And he was like, yeah. And then I was like, ¿quieres ver en español? And he was like, yeah. Pero creo que es en inglés. And he's like, no, poner en español. And I'm like, okay. So what I noticed is the Spanish version. I saw probably the first quarter or almost half in Spanish. And I don't know for the other bilingual people in the house, if you guys notice when something is in Spanish, but the joke is for English audiences, or vice versa. Because I noticed that a lot. That I was like, even and in Spanish it was even quicker. Because then when I flipped it to English, I was just like, it's easier to understand in English because it's clearly one of those things. It's uh, Latin American, right? Or it's Latino, Latinx, Latina people working to mainly for the Spanish speaking English speaking audiences. So I noticed that it was just like in Spanish it was falling kind of flat for me, and mainly because I could understand all the references that American English speaking Latino, Latina, Latinx person would get. So yeah, so and then when I switched it to English, I think it was smoother. Um, and definitely at the end, I realized I felt like maybe it's because I felt like my Encanto was going. I feel like I've been being pulled left and right lately of doing things for people that I feel that I can't just um, be myself. So I've definitely at the end I definitely related to the different sisters. I'm like, I can't lift things anymore, and yeah, so it was weird. I'm definitely in a weird headspace to watch Encanto. The colors were superb for sure, and Lin Manuel Miranda is just doing music for everything and everyone out there right now. So yeah, I don't know. That's first impressions.
Thank you for that, Dino. Touching about that, there's definitely things that you said that I want to touch forward, including that picking stuff up and kind of letting yourself be, but we'll touch on that later. Now, JP, tell us your first impression.
Ah man, this is this is my second time watching the movie, and I'll admit the first time. So my actual first impression, I was actually somewhat underwhelmed by the film. I didn't think it was lending too much to me, and also because I guess my first time watching it, it's crazy that the house is powered by a candlelight because the amount of gas lighting that was in this fucking movie was very standoffish to me. So my
Wow.
first impression was I didn't like it because of that. But then second time watching it, da 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 da.
He was working that on that all day, folks.
Yeah,
I missed you, JP.
yeah.
That have made my whole day.
Yeah, I think it's. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll be here all the evening. Um, but no, the second time watching it, I think I kind of cooled down and whatever. So I got to actually enjoy the movie this time around. I noticed details I missed the first time I watched it. So maybe we'll talk on that later. But all in all, like, yeah, the music is great. Visuals, I'm not gonna lie, this is the first time in a while that I was not too much of a fan of the visuals, and I'll tell you why. It's because we brought up a few of it already, where there's some elements in the film that look too fucking real for like a cartoon. Like some of the trees look like, okay, you might as well have just filmed an actual tree. And there's also there's a very emotional sequence before we get into spoilers where there's an event happens in a river, in a stream, and the water looks so fucking real against these dopey Disney ass characters that it took me out of the scene. And also, there's a lot of use of animals in this movie, and they all look like cartoon animals except for the horses. The horses look like horses. We had a whole song in the movie with dancing fucking donkeys, and they look like cartoon donkeys from like Frozen. So that's cool. That's okay. There's even a horse in Frozen that looks like a cartoon horse, but the horses in this movie looked like fucking horses, and that threw me the fuck off. So visually, it's beautiful, but there was little elements like that. It was like, guys, remember, it's a fucking cartoon. Like, I don't know, man. I think it's just me. But this second time around, I couldn't help but notice it. So, but yeah, and then the music, of course, was done by the Second Coming of Christ, Lin Manuel. So, but other than that, yeah, it's a beautiful movie. It's great. Stellar cast, stellar characters. Second time around watching it, I got to put the Grinch aside until I saw the fucking superimposed fucking horses.
All right.
Well, thank you for that, JP. And based on what you said, I already know who is going to be the real hater of this film.
I think I'm looking pretty good, and I thought I was coming in.
I thought Dino was gonna be the downer, and like JP came and doubled down. I'm like, oh snap. No, but my first impressions of the film. So I've heard of this film. Like people have been talking about this film. I know people that already watched this film probably like 7 times at this point. And so I was like, this is a film I have to watch at some point. Thankfully, we're watching it here for the Cinema Club, at least reviewing it. We watched it already. And then my bestie, Elizabeth, that she's been in Cinema Club before, she told me that there's a lot of singing because, it's Lin Manuel Miranda and everything. So I was like, my first impression was literally like, oh, I hope I actually enjoy it because I'm not a big fan of musicals. And I hope not every letter they start singing. And thankfully, the animation that JP hated some parts, I actually enjoyed because it made certain songs that I wasn't necessarily a big fan of kind of me ease through it because the animation, the visuals, everything that was happening really took me in. And as far as like the visual itself, like what JP was saying about the trees and things like that, I actually enjoyed like a lot because I was like, oh my God, we're seeing for the very first time like authentic palm trees. Like there were shots that were made like in the fields and things like that. I was like, that looks like Puerto Rico. Like the flowers that are on the streets and like all this stuff, it looks like Puerto Rico and Mexico and Colombia and places that I've been. And I love that authenticity out of it because, again, a lot of people from my community, we've been waiting like for years for some type of representation, and to be made in this way, to me, just stands out so much that it's difficult for me to really criticize too heavy this film because it's such a relief of like, finally, there's something that at least we can feel proud of that we have. And
you mean Tarzan wasn't good enough for you?
No, it definitely was not good enough for me. I didn't represent my people. Tarzan, it's its own different thing. Let's not bring that right here, right now.
I
Uh,
want to know. Can you
yeah.
show me?
Oh god.
But those were my first impressions. I want to get like now dive into the actual plot, the story, character elements. I mean, you can say cinematography, but really animation and things like that. Let's start with story. So the way this movie began, it began essentially already giving you a part of the story. We then in the movie we see that we didn't get the full part of the story. We just got like that little starting point. So I want to know what you guys thought about that beginning, and feel free anybody to jump in.
Well, I think that if they had laid out the story in any other way, like it really wouldn't have been as great of a metaphor as familial trauma as it is, because that's what this story is about, is generational trauma. At the end of the day, that's in its core. And I feel like this happens to a lot of families where it's like you're a kid and you only get so much information, and then when you get older you kind of see the whole picture as to why things were happening in your home. And I feel like that's what they did with this. It's like they gave us like the story that like grandma tells everyone as to why we are the way we are. And then as the story progresses, you see that it's so much more than that. And how that ends up trickling down and affecting everyone, and I think that it's kind of a powerful statement the way that they set that up.
For me, I mean, that's a really deep dive, Michaela.
I'm not gonna follow that.
So I'm gonna go a different way because yeah,
Sorry.
totally. I totally see that, Michaela. But story wise, it's very kind of cut and dry. Your Disney kind of setup story because, like you said, Steve, it kind of gives you the story, but it leaves stuff out, and then at the end we find out. And that's been the Disney bread and butter, especially more so Pixar of late, of just like this is what your world is, but they leave that tiny little piece out that ends up being the huge catalyst or once you get into like the third act or stuff like that. So story wise, to me, it didn't seem that interesting from the get go, right? My dad even asked like, "How does this compare to Coco?" But of course he didn't say Coco, so he said that other movie, and I had to be like, "Which one?" And then I had to like get context clues and be like Coco. And as I was watching, I realized, well, Coco to me seems like a way more serious subject matter because it's dealing with death and stuff like that. And somehow I relate with death more. No, I just found that part of the culture of Latino culture a little bit more interesting for me than this part. So I don't know if that explains fully story wise, but to me the story seemed just your typical Disney story.
Well, for me, I felt like the story's very much it's very much the treasure hunting story, like The Alchemist. It kind of follows that prototype, that parable. This character is looking for their treasure and they go on their adventure, and then they find out that the treasure was within them the whole time. They just wasn't looking in the right space. The treasure was always in the Encanto. The treasure was in their hearts. Uh, so that's kind of how I read it, but I did think it was a very interesting take on that. I mean, the story is arranged a little bit differently, where you have the soothsayer character or the fortune teller character comes in much later in the film than normally happens with these type of stories. Normally, that is the thing that sets the whole adventure off. So it was a different kind of take, man, and I dug it. I dug the La Familia type of storytelling where everybody was inclusive. At some point, there were so many characters introduced. I didn't even consider that they were going to like give all of them their own amount of little screen time, which I really enjoyed. At first, I was like, yeah, there's no way they're going to get to everybody. They're going to be like little background characters, but everybody had their moment. And I thought that kind of fleshed out the story even more, where like this thing is truly about family and it's about individuals of a family, and it's like everybody is special in their own way, and it doesn't really matter because at the end we're all in this together. We're family, and it's so much so even the community is a part of this family. It's just that our family has a certain gift, and we rely we put that responsibility on ourselves to give back because we have been given so much. Those are the kind of the themes that I got out of the story that I felt maybe they were trying to push into people's faces a little bit there. But I dug it, man. I was really on for the ride, if I'm being honest.
That's good. It's crazy because like everybody said basically what this whole movie is. I definitely relate to the whole treasure hunting bit because that's what it is. Like oh, you gotta do the thing to get to the thing to get to the thing. But like my first time watching the movie, like I literally thought I was like, wow, this is like fucking Cinderella if she had like 9 evil step families. Because like she wasn't even like a relative to these motherfuckers when I first saw it. It's like, holy shit, she didn't get a fucking room, so she's no longer the in-laws who are not blood related get treated better than this poor girl. So the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this is just the constant fucking mental abuse of this poor fucking child. But then the second time watching it, after like getting rid of that fucking hate cloud or whatever, it's like, oh, well, it's her like trying to like, I'm here, like it's her story of like, I'm here and let me help the family, let me help my family, because we see perspectives of the other family members where they feel like, oh, this character is such a fucking waste of space, like, oh, this other character, Bruno the uncle, is such a traitor, backstabber, or he deserved the family. But no, like that's not true. They always loved the they always will love the family. Everybody loves the family, and we like, the second time watching it, it's like I got to get that more, especially when Kayla noticed something when we watched the movie the second time. I was like, oh man, yeah, that's fucking true, isn't it? And it made my viewing experience a lot better. So the second time around.
What was it? What was it?
Oh,
the power thing?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, we can get into that later. Yeah.
I have
Jake,
a question. Is JP bleeping out the videos? Right? I think he should. Because this is a Disney movie, and I've heard more F-bombs, and I might be doing it too, but boy, JP, just that one alone is just gonna be...
I felt such a great amount of hate for the first viewing of this film that I just had to say it. I'm glad that that Michaela and I saw it a second time, because it probably would have been a lot worse.
Yeah, no, you did not dig that, and you were so upset that I did.
I have a question about this film. I have a lot of questions about it actually, but just like little plot points that I didn't quite understand. One of them being when everybody gets their own room or whatever, or excuse me, their own door for their gift. She doesn't get one, so she's forced to stay in the nursery. But when everybody gets their own door, do they get their own bedroom in the Encanto? Is that what happens? Yeah. And why don't I remember what anybody's bedroom looks like in the Encanto? Did we go into any of the rooms?
Yeah,
they're just their own worlds.
To Antonio's room, the jungle. When he opens the door, the girl with the flowers, the beautiful girl, she was laying.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I remember her room for sure.
Yeah. And then Bruno's.
I thought Bruno lived in the walls.
He did, but like he had his own room because of the powers, and it was the one with like all the sand. That was like what?
Oh, right.
His tower of the house was his room.
Yeah, I don't remember watching his actual bed, but it's usually kind of like the passageway through what will be his room, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, their rooms were basically just their own environment or own world, and the bed is wherever it's there, The only one, the flower girl came down, from like a flower bed, but other than that, I don't think you saw anyone's actual bed except, the nursery bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only, I guess, hard time that I had in the beginning of the movie, but then, it got cleared up as I went to the stories and everything, was literally me believing fully that this person, I understand the magic of actually touching the door and getting the actual power, but of like her literally not having a gift. Because I was like, maybe she just needs to be a little bit more self-aware in the beginning. Because I was like, she's a great narrator. She's literally like giving all her family stuff. She's singing really well. And like she's great with people, like telling them their family story. I'm like, you're not missing anything, girl. Like, what are you talking about? So that was the only thing. But then, as you go along the movie and everything, I got more into the actual adventure and the story and the whole alchemist journey, and I forgot about that. But that was literally the only thing that the first couple minutes I was like, what? Like, you're talented. What are you talking about? But go ahead, Michaela. I know you're like desperate to say something.
No, it's just like the second time watching it, like I kind of came up with like this whole kind of conspiracy theory about how like she does have a power. She actually does. It's just she has become the house because she's going to be destined to be the next matriarch, like her grandmother, who also does not have a power.
Yeah.
Technically.
Oh no, her power is childhood trauma.
Hey, no, because like when you see the house breaking up, it usually corresponds exactly with what Mirabella's feeling at the time.
Yeah.
Like when she's forgotten, that's when the house literally starts falling apart a little bit. Like when she's confronting her grandmother, that's when the house literally breaks down. So like it's not that she didn't get a power, it's just she didn't get an obvious one.
Yeah, I had the same
Or at least
thought.
that's my fan theory.
No, I had the same thought halfway through the movie. I was thinking like, well, maybe she doesn't have a power because she has to be the matriarch now because the grandma doesn't have one, and she just sort of keeps everybody together,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I also kind of noticed that each of the characters' powers kind of correlated with like what their emotional trauma was. Like it kind of like it's supposed to help them cope with it, but at the same time it's like the seed of it. Just saying, like if you like really look into it.
Was anyone else thinking that the way to get the powers back was going to be for one of them to sacrifice themselves? Because I was thinking that it was going to go to a real dark place where, like, the whole house collapsed on her,
Oh yeah.
and then the new flame pops up. Or then when they're at the river, I'm like, is Abuela going to throw herself in the river? Because she's talking about, like, her and her husband work here. Or is Maribel going to be like, I got this, Abuela.
So I did see Michaela like raise her hand like she thought of. I knew it was a Disney movie, so I knew it wasn't gonna take that twist.
You know what?
Well, the thing of it is she had her parents.
Yeah.
Up and the way they pull to with our heartstrings.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? When the first time I saw this movie, I told like right at the third act when they're rebuilding the house, I'm like, I told Kayla, I was like, the house is gonna come back because they made the mistake of making the house a character.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I knew that the house was gonna come back to life, but I was like, but I really hope they don't get their powers back, and they did.
Yeah.
And it made me mad the first time watching it. It's like, fuck.
Because I think I agree that would have been a better story. Yeah. But
did anyone also think of House the movie? And because there was like halfway through, or maybe towards the second part of the movie, where I'm like, this house could just up and murk people, and it'd be totally fine. Like no one would blink an eye. Like like where did where did Bruno go? Where did whoever go? And it's like, and the house, all it has to do is the shutters like. But it's the house murking people left and right.
That would have
been. I was thinking that too.
Sorry.
Probably because it's funny that it wasn't until the second time we watched it we kept bringing up that movie as well. But it's a Disney movie, so I think like the worst we would have gotten was like a house moving castle moment where the house literally gets a fucking leg or two and it's just like moving forward, not killing anybody.
Just menacing.
Yeah. But there was that mountain got split in two when that house was destroyed. Mm-hmm. So people died, and this movie did not address that.
Well, how do you know someone was living on the mountain?
The village too, like cracks everywhere. People died, and they didn't bring it up.
Okay.
If not people, for sure, animals A
Yeah.
tree.
A tree.
So before we dive deep into animation, I want to get into favorite characters and who did you most related to. So you can have a favorite character and you can have another character that you related to the most. It could be the same character too, but like let's start with Jason. Let's go.
Yo, um, I don't know if I had a character that I'm most related to, if I'm being completely honest. I was just kind of on the ride of this story, to be honest with you, because there was something because each character brought like a little something unique to it. It almost felt like we were dealing with just one character. You know what I mean? Like a Voltron situation, where they all kind of like are one part of a whole. Um, I mean, outside of I mean, I guess even including the main character. But I think maybe, I don't know, man. That's a hard question with this one because it's such an ensemble piece, you know? Um, I guess I kind of like the idea of the main character because I thought it was going to take a different turn very early on, too. Um, but yeah, I think I liked her journey solely because I was thinking, like, okay, well, what happens to this sweet little girl who never gets her gift, but she's still an integral part of the family and nobody makes her feel bad about that. You know what I mean? Like, so I got like a really good vibe from like the rest of the family. I didn't get like the stepsister or excuse me, the stepkid vibe. You know what I mean? Like, nope, that's our sister, that's our cousin, that's our niece or daughter, and she's a part of the family. We just, she didn't get her gift, and that's that. And everybody was so nonchalant about her getting her gift. But usually, I don't always go with the main character as my favorite, but on this one, I do feel like I may be related to that one the most. That storyline.
Alrighty, let's hear about you, JP.
Oh man, it had I liked Jorge, he does the spackle. No. I like my choice will have to be the number one Puerto Rican that was involved in this movie. I said it. I said it, Lynn. You're second to this movie. John Leguizamo is the fucking he's the BA bitch. I just think it's great too that like Bruno's character was obviously written for like probably Lynn to do, but instead they gave it to John Leguizamo.
Oh yes.
So like, can you imagine Disney casting? It's like, Lynn walks up to casting. It's like, so who do you give the part to? It's like, oh, the biggest Puerto Rican that we know. Oh, really? And then it's like, John, what the fuck? But yeah, no, like Bruno's character, I it's so great because like a lot of these stupid Disney movies they like to do like the whole twist villain thing, but it turns out this was kind of like a reversal of that, where we're supposed to believe this guy is evil, but he's not. Like he just sees stuff that will happen, and then people take it totally the wrong fucking way. And most like, oh yeah, I got that book too. I'm not gonna run and get it.
Oh, hey. Oh, sorry. What were we talking about?
I got that book as well.
Did you actually read it?
Shut the fuck! I read those, asshole. Fuck off.
Damn.
Okay. Yeah, I'm willing to give you some room. I have another John Leguizamo book that was turned into a graphic novel. That one with the pictures. I'll admit that one I didn't read yet. Okay, and I've had that for like months now, and it's effing pictures, and I didn't read it yet. Okay, so I'll give you that much, and it's a signed copy too, motherfucker.
Yeah,
but I didn't read it yet.
Shocker.
But I read those two.
So sorry, I brought the books up.
No, don't.
I'm so sorry, I brought the books
John
up.
Leguizamo is God, and Lynn is Jesus. So that's my that. No, but yeah, Bruno's character, because like he's such a cool guy, and like he has no hate or resentment towards his family, even though these fucking assholes made a number one song about not talking about him. Can you believe it that song is number one right now? Well, as of this recording, it is. It's not gonna be nominated for an Oscar, but who gives a damn? That's the one that fucking Disney's like, yeah, money. Fucking Radio Disney is leeching off of that fucking thing, and they could thank that character because he's so fucking great. I love that character. He's such a great guy, and like to see like all the crap that he has to go through, and he still has love for his family, and it's tragic, but because it's played with humor, it's funny, it's cute, it's adorable. He needs a hug. We need to hug Bruno. So
Yeah, no,
Bruno was my favorite character.
Everyone felt that. Everyone felt that. No one thinks Bruno deserves more on his plate. No one feels that.
He doesn't even have a plate. It's drawn on his table. That was also really sad. Like, oh my god.
Oh, JP.
Dino, tell us about yours.
Well, I mean, right? We can all relate to. Actually, I think my gift was acting or whatever that line was that Bruno said. Yeah, definitely Bruno. I mean, this is kind of my homage to Bruno. And again, John Leguizamo is friggin' amazing. So, and they got to kind of pimp him out a little bit by just having his kind of energy of going back and forth between like multi-personality kind of disorder or whatever. Bruno, someone that can see visions and stuff like that. But yeah, I think who's definitely him, just because he comes in towards the end and kind of is not your typical character, and is just kind of wild and crazy. So that's always fun for me. But it's horrible. The only one I know the name of is Bruno, because I guess they kept saying don't talk about Bruno, and I was like, oh, I can talk about Bruno. But yeah, the main character, and I was actually really surprised by the pretty flower girl. And when she has that breakthrough moment and that song and the flower, and it comes out as a cactus, and she realizes what she can actually do, and it's not just like, so she really turned it around for me, because I was like, I have no interest in this character whatsoever. And then when she found that thorn and the cactus, I was like, I can now I would watch a whole movie now of this cactus lady, and what she can do and what she wants to do, because we don't really know what, especially now that all these characters have kind of had that I was gonna say urethra moment, but the eureka moment. It's like, let's see where these characters go off to, So that's kind of what I'm sticking to.
What about you, Michaela?
That's a hard one. Just because I can just see where like so many of these characters like come from. Like I really like the weather ant. I really like her.
Peppa?
I love Peppa.
Yeah.
She's underrated. Like, could you imagine just like having to be like, I can literally destroy you with like my bad mood right now, but I'm not.
I also thought like this,
and her husband,
yeah,
like
I was able
their
to,
thing. I like what they had a lot.
I noticed that the second time round more, like whenever she's about to like fucking do a thunderstorm, like he just like holds her hand and whatever. Is like, oh my god, like if it weren't for it's funny because like with Maribel's mom and dad, if it weren't for her mom, the dad would be fucking dead. But their relationship's like, no, the dad's the one that's saving your guys' asses, like just comforting her and not blowing the house away.
Well, but see, like that's what I'm like saying is like all of their powers are just so beautifully matched with like their own personal issues. Like the mom, like she's supposed to fix everything. That's why she never stands up to the grandmas, because that's who she is. Mm-hmm. Like she has to fix everything. And Peppa, like her whole thing is she has to keep everything in, but she's an emotional person. And she can't. And then there's Louisa, who's like bearing everything of the family's burdens, and she feels like she has to, or else she's not worth anything. And then Isabella's supposed to be so perfect until she realizes that the art is actually in the imperfect. Because I also think she's lesbian. I think that's kind of like the underscore of that.
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I mean there was
beautiful woman makes a succulent. That's exactly what that means.
Oh my god.
Beautiful woman makes it succulent.
Like think about it. Like I have so many. Like as soon as like I have a female friend who decides to get into like botany, and the first thing they get is a succulent, they're probably bi.
Oh, I see.
At least bi.
I got you.
That's great.
Yeah, I was
I'm just
wondering
saying.
if it felt like it was coming. It felt like, all right, one of these characters is going to be like, bi, queer, gay or lesbian or something. And
Oh yeah.
I kept waiting for the shoe to drop, and it never quite did.
So
Well, I don't know
I'm
if that
pretty
was
sure Isabella's.
misdirection, because you would think it would be like, oh, the beefy girl is gonna, but I think they were like, we're not gonna take that easy route, stereotypical type of thing. At
Yeah.
least that's how I saw it, right? It's like we're gonna leave that character be, and and focus on the other characters. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and like oh, sorry. It's just like the amount of layers that they really put thought into this film that they didn't have to, because like the teenage boy who changes into everyone's face is literally a metaphor of how he has to change to be whoever he needs to be with in that room. The girl who can listen to everything. She knows everything. So she has to deal with that. And that means that everyone comes to her for information.
and
And I
she
don't
doesn't
think
have a voice.
she doesn't. She doesn't, because she hears everything else. And then, so it's just like, it's so hard to just pick just one, because like this film does like give something for anyone who has had this kind of dynamic.
Maybe the only character who didn't do any sort of wrong in the movie, like Antonio.
But even then, it shows that he prefers the company of animals to people.
Yeah, because he probably knows
'Cause
that
his
animals
family's
are
a-
much better than his fucking family.
Like they all have something. Like Bruno is like, he literally sees the cracks and he'll say something about it, and that's what got him ostracized, was him trying to like be able to be like, no, this is what the real issue is.
Well, okay, so the goldfish, sorry. I'm like, yeah, because I'm glad Bruno brought it up again of like, I see a goldfish, and then they blame me. It's like, yeah, a goldfish dies all the time. And also, maybe he saw the goldfish dying because you didn't feed the goldfish. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, yeah, it's screw
Then
the
I
other
think they
people.
dated.
Huh?
That sounds like they dated.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny also. Yeah, that's also funny. But yeah, just the idea, right, of someone can tell you something and then it's their fault, right? And no one wants to hear that except like, hey, maybe you shouldn't feed chocolate to your chihuahua. And it's like, chihuahua died. Your fault.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna jump ahead and say
Fine.
my favorite character, since it was mentioned just recently, it was definitely Antonio, because I was like, oh my god, look at this character. It reminds me almost of a young version of myself without the hair, because I didn't have that flawless hair when I was a kid. I do have that flawless hair now, but I was just like, how amazing. And actually, my first exposure to this film was actually a picture that's been going viral. I don't know if you guys have seen it, of like this little kid that literally looks just like Antonio, and he's like smiling next to basically the video of him watching Antonio in the film. And that went viral, and a lot of people are sharing it like, this is why we need representation, etc., etc. But the character actually related to the most, and I was shocked that I related to this character, was Luisa Madrigal, which she was the strong woman, because of what Dino said earlier in his first impressions about like, she's been carrying so much stuff that like people from the outside might look at her like, oh yeah, she can handle everything, she's the toughest person on the block. But deep down inside, he's like, I kind of want to relax. Like, I just been doing work like all this time, and I kind of want to like smell the roses a little bit, because all I do is work, and I'm programmed to it, and people are used to it. So I kind of have to like kind of portray that. But in reality, I don't really want to do that all the time. I don't mind doing it, but I don't want to do it all the time. So I definitely relate to that particular character. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to open the floor to if anybody wants to discuss a specific thing about the movie, an animation, a plot point, whatever it is. Feel free and go ahead. Anybody?
I just
Well,
want to give props. Oh, I'll start. I just want to give props to that caterpillar song at the end. It's
Oh,
so
yeah.
beautiful. I love it so much. It is so good.
So that's the one that's gonna be nominated for the Oscar.
It better be.
Man,
You
no,
know,
it's a good
I was
song.
going to say the same thing. I was curious what everybody's, because I imagine everybody has a favorite song in this thing. Me personally, I like the Bruno song, but I felt the most grew to the Isabella song, to be honest with you, because it was kind of unexpected. It sort of came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Oh, she gets a song too," and it was my favorite.
Mhm.
So
was
going
Isabella?
back, oh my bad. Just going back to again the Luisa character. I think, to be honest with you, that whole scene she got, where she was able to speak about how she was feeling, and then she had that really awesome song. That's what got me really into the character to the point that I related to the most, because the song was good, man. That song was fire. I love the switch ups. I love that it was like sing songy, and then he kind of had a drop, like almost like rap or trap or something like that. Like I liked it a lot.
She was the who was Isabel again?
The flower girl.
The flower girl. Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't mean the flower girl. I meant the strong girl.
Oh no,
Oh,
Luis
that's
is the
Luisa.
strong one. Yeah.
Okay, well then I'm with Steve on that one. I like the
Yeah.
Louisa.
Because that was such a serious start to it, right? Because for someone so strong, like you can think of a strong silent type, but that was great. What I did notice, and maybe I haven't been watching as many like Disney cartoons or stuff, but and I don't and Coco, because I was kind of like in a fantasy world. You don't. Um, it was already kind of crazy. Of like the cartoons that kind of just take place in regular world, this one really broke through like Luisa's song of just like we're not just singing kind of like Beauty and the Beast and she's just going through the town. Like we went into the mind of Luisa, right? And whether the donkeys and all that, but like breaking through and like it was like full on roller coaster. And they did that with different characters as well, where it was just like they're not just singing in the environment they're in, but it's completely changing as they sing, as their emotions. And I don't remember that being a big thing or lately. Am I wrong?
No, I think you've nailed it in the head. Like on the head is usually like I think that's exactly why I think these songs are so powerful, because you're right. They are actually in the mindscape of these characters versus like having to like have them tell us what they're feeling because of a situation. That's really good point.
Yeah, Luisa's song, like for me, like definitely remind me of like old school Disney, like when they weren't afraid to like take the song out of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Isabella's song, I think is the most like visually appealing, very pop, very colorful. And then Mariposa is basically the begin. It's basically what Up is, but like with lyrics, like the first scene in Up.
Bite you.
No, but yeah, no, it's powerful. I really liked the Mariposa song, but god damn it, Bruno's so fucking poppin' and so catchy. I hate that I like that song because like out of all of them, is like that one's probably like the most silly, and like why is that the one? Why is that song out of all of them the number one song? But I'm one of the reasons for it. I replay that motherfucker like every morning. I'll admit it. It's not the best song, but god damn it, it's the one that's the easiest lyrics to know.
Until Dolores's part.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Only Lin can get away with rhyming understand with understand. You fucking Grammy, Oscar, Tony winning motherfucker, you.
You're bleeping this episode, man.
Man, I wish I had the technology for it.
Movie.
But this is going straight like this. So this is one movie for sure, especially since we talked about all these different subjects and things about the movie itself, of like the possibility of being an LGBTQ plus character here and things like that. This is one of those movies that I wish we could see, kind of the what's it called, the sandbox, or I forgot the name of that, the documentary that we used to watch about the Emperor's
Right.
New Groove or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I wish we can have that from this movie, because I bet you this movie probably had a lot of things that they probably cut out, from
Hmm.
songs
I,
to
I, I don't know if I agree with you. I think they've completely changed it. I think I think it's completely different now. Like the stuff that we saw in that documentary of what they were cutting and like how they were like butting heads. I think now with Disney and especially with Pixar, and I think part of it has to just going back to Coco. Disney and Pixar got in a lot of hot seat because they were trying to trademark Dia de los Muertos and like all these other things, and they didn't have any Latino writers or performers at that point signed on to the movie in any respect. And then there was such a like uproar about it that then Disney was like, oh, maybe we should have, if we're doing movies of people of color or other cultures, maybe we should have some of those that representation in the actual room where
Oh
the
yeah,
stories are
I don't
coming up.
I didn't necessarily meant basically on the representation, because I know there's Latino people. I mean, you can see it on the credits and everything. But I'm mainly talking about the themes and
Hmm.
development of the movie. I bet you this movie, if the original ingredients were there, they probably wanted to put on this movie. This movie probably would have been like 3 hours long, probably.
Well,
Uh,
okay, so I'm using that same idea, but with like LGBTQ and all that kind of acceptance coming in. So I think they've realized now how this worked well. We're now able to allow this bigger conversation of fitting in and finding who you are and stuff like that, and we can also place it. I just don't see as much of it being an issue, and in the sense that they're trusting their artists a little bit more coming up with a story. But maybe that's just my naive self thinking that.
No,
Yes and
I
no.
think
So I
it's
would say they are trusting their artists to a certain extent, but also you got to think about Disney is a gigantic corporation, to the point that they
Many,
have
many, 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 many.
rollouts of video games. They're probably gonna put these characters in the metaverse. They're probably gonna
yeah.
get like figurines and McDonald's deals on the Happy Meals. Like all this stuff
Yeah.
is part of it. So because of that, they have to be very protective of the themes and languages and topics that they do touch in the film,
Mm.
because of
I, I was gonna say like it's yes and no. Like I feel like time has gotten better for artists to express themselves through Disney. Because I recently read somewhere that the creative team had to fight neck and neck with the company to make Louisa not only be strong but appear strong, to give her the physical attributes of like what a muscular strong woman would look like. And
Oh,
so,
really?
and yeah, and so because that was like an afterthought, like the Disney Corporation, they didn't make any Louisa toys for kids. They
Oh,
made just a bunch of Isabella toys. The flower girl, because like she's pretty. She's a average looking, like what you expect out of Disney. And now they're like in kind of like a weird place where it's like, oh wait, no, people like the Louisa character better. Kind of like how in Star Wars they were like, oh, we're gonna make a bunch of Mandalorian toys, but the thing that everybody wants was Grogu, was the baby
Was the baby
Yoda,
Yoda.
and they're like, oh wait, you guys want the baby Yoda?
well,
We
that
didn't
that
make
was
any
them
fucking baby
also.
Yoda.
That was also like a drop in the ball because they kept it so secret that I was like, whoops, Christmas was right around the corner and we could have made millions and
Right?
billions of dollars. Um, so my question, the flower girl, did they make toys of her with her spunky hair color and her little cactus and
I
she has a roommate, you know, that kind of thing?
I want to
It
bet.
should.
I was like, if not, it's like one of those Barbie toys where like when the Barbie toy comes with like the water or like the little
Yeah.
hair dryer, like, oh, if you turn on the little hair dryer, your dresses change. Ooh, it's now black and punky. Ooh. If it's not in the fucking Toys R Us doesn't exist. Why did I say that? If it's not in Toys R Us, it's definitely at fucking Hot Topic or some shit. I was like, what, at least 5 bleeps already?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that was 11,000 bleeps at this point. But before we get into final thoughts, I do want to at least briefly touch on the animation. Personally, I think this is a movie you kind of have to watch at the very least twice. And the reason I say that is because even me watching it this first time, during musical numbers, the story and everything, there is so much animation happening around so fast. Especially in that Louisa song, there is so many places that the song transports you to that it's hard to like kind of catch everything in one view.
Mhm.
So
100%.
what were things that stood out to you about the animation, or any opinion, thoughts, or anything about the animation that you guys wanted to say?
I mean, character design, like that. I'll go ahead and say that right off the bat. Like the first time around, I didn't realize that like each character, like their dress, correlated with their powers to the point of like ridiculousness. Like on like Louisa's skirt, like on the bottom hem, you'll see that there's like barbells embroidered there. You know, like Mirabelle's costume is like so chock full. Like her entire skirt is kind of representative of like the Encanto. If you like look at all the embroidery that she added herself, you know, and like they put so much little detail in like every little thing that they created for this world, where it's just like next time I watch it, I'm gonna have to watch everything that's like in the house to see how many butterflies there are.
Oh yeah.
You know?
So
Man.
her name though is Mirabel, no Maribel. So I
Oh,
was thinking there was a connection with her and Bruno because he had visions, Visión, and she is Mirabel, so she sees as well. So
oh
that
damn.
that's what I caught. But
Oh, I thought it was because of those ridiculous glasses they gave her.
oh, that too.
Well, I mean, her
Actually,
glasses were green.
Oh, you did say that. You did say
Her
that her
glasses
glasses
are
were green.
green.
I'm not gonna lie, there was that moment where she was losing her glasses that I thought we were gonna have like a Velma moment.
My goodness.
She was gonna be
Where are
like,
my
"Jinkies,
glasses?
where are my glasses now? I gotta get
um,
LASIK."
yeah, it was very magical, colorful wise, for sure. Um, more so than watching it again for the colors and all that, because again, to me, like I would have liked to see it in a movie theater with people, because
Mhm.
just I remember how that was watching like Coco and some of the kind of like seeing yourself, right? Steve, you brought about that kid that kind of I guess went viral, which I haven't seen it, so clearly it's not viral enough because it hasn't gotten to me. But I remember watching Coco and just watching certain movies, and there's like little Latino kids and stuff like that, and I would and hearing the reactions. And so in a non-creepy way, I would love to be over in a room with other Latinos, Latinas, Latinx, Latinas, and kind of enjoy that moment of just like discovering a new world, that we're accepted in, or is a world that mirrors our world, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
For me, this version of the animation, this was the most refined version of this style of animation that I've ever seen before. I kind of, alluded to that earlier in my first impressions, but the lighting, especially, like I've never seen like light reflect off of objects in an animated feature like this before. That was completely new for me. Like just like the hair, like just the light shining off the hair and reflecting off the ground slightly differently and the shadowing and stuff like that. I thought that was amazing. But we've seen this style of animation before. We've seen this in other Disney features and whatnot. But this is, like I said, they got some new software over at Pixar and they're putting it to use, some new computer chips or something.
Probably from The Witcher 3 or something like that.
The Witcher
I don't
3?
know.
Yeah, the
I-
video game, or maybe Valhalla Assassins
Hmm.
3. Or the Fortnite processor. I don't know. Which
Oh my
one do you
God.
think, JP?
The Unreal Engine. I don't know, man. Like, as much as I agree with everything right now, I'm still in that weird moment as like being back to like Mickey Mouse is like if Goofy is fucking around with Mickey and Donald, why is Pluto a fucking dog? Like, why is the horse a horse, but the donkeys are obviously cartoon donkeys? Like, why was the horse an actual horse? There was too
You
many
know why?
moments in the movie where something was too actual as opposed to a thing in an animated movie.
I'll
There was a
tell you
single
why,
palm
JP.
tree that was a palm tree, and there was a horse that was an actual horse.
JP, I'll tell you why. Because horses are one of the hardest things to draw because of their muscles and everything. So that was just the artist flexing their chops of just being like, yeah, we could do realistic looking donkeys and capybaras and jaguares and tigers. No. That's a cakewalk. What we're gonna do is a horse. Why? Because we can. Why? Because we're legit. Why? So we can blow JP's mind out of this world. So that's why the horse looks so realistic, because it's one of the hardest things to draw. Like, even I think, yeah, all the way back to, I was gonna say Leonardo DiCaprio, Da Vinci, in his like sketchbook and stuff like that. Like, horses are extremely hard to draw. They have so much going on that it's one of the hardest animals out there, or even things like to draw. So I think it's just the artist just like, look what we can do.
I could just imagine like JP in the 18th century watching those little like motion things with the pictures on the spinning thing, and like when they see the drawn horse walking, he's like, "Why is this a horse?"
I
Like,
thought
they
you were
could've
going to go with
animated
the fact that
important figures like Napoleon, and they chose a horse.
I thought you were going to go with the fact that at the very beginning it had like Disney's 60th anniversary, and it had Mickey in black and white. Because my dad even said that, wow, ahí está Mickey. That's it. And I'm like, yeah, He didn't comment like, oh, it said 60th anniversary. That's what he's like. I know that Mickey Mouse. That's the Mickey Mouse I grew up with, type of thing. So
Yeah,
that's where I thought you were going.
I feel like if they gave that horse white eyes and colorful pupils, I wouldn't be upset.
Probably
But
not.
they gave that horse actual eyes.
Yep.
They gave him real
Actual horse eyes.
So I think with that said, I think it's time to jump into final thoughts. So let's start with the only amazing woman in this group. That's Michaela. Tell us your final thoughts.
You don't know how I identify. We're gonna cut that part out. I'm just kidding.
Okay. I really enjoyed this film. I think it's going to be an important film going forward. I think this is going to have a very special place in pop culture as we go forward. The music's great. There's like a character for everyone to relate to in this thing. And it's an interesting storyline because it's like there's no real villain.
Oh, the family's the villain. What are you talking about?
But like, you know what I'm saying.
I
I'm gonna
know.
rib you. But no, like, it's a beautiful film, and I think that if like this, everyone should probably watch it. I would suggest it for everyone.
Alrighty, let's go with Dino.
I'm very like on the fence with this. I mean, Pixar doesn't miss much, and I'm not saying they miss to me personally, I wouldn't, man, because I'm like I wanna represent la raza, and like whenever there's opportunity, it's like yeah, watch Encanto, like all that. But I don't know, man. That's fine. It's I definitely like the second part of the movie more than the first. When people start kind of waking up or just listening to their inner voices, if you will, or being honest with themselves and not just pretending to be happy with the roles they've been given. So yeah, the second part of the movie is definitely where what I enjoyed most and what I related. And yeah, I that's fine. I guess I'll recommend that to people. I don't know if it's the first thing I'd recommend, but yeah, it's a
Alrighty.
but
Alrighty,
that's
let's go with
right
Jason.
now.
I look at this film in pretty high regard, actually. I might even place it in my top 10 list for the year, 2021. It's a pretty good film. I would recommend it to anybody. I don't see anyone that I wouldn't recommend it to. It feels like the type of movie that kids are gonna grab onto and they're just gonna like wear it out, which is cool. I mean, it has great music in it, so that's just reason enough to give it more than one viewing. And also I feel like it's going to be a big movie, for little girls to watch growing up because I mean it's a little girl lead and there's a lot of strong women in this. I mean, mostly strong women in this, mostly women cast. If we didn't mention that already, but it's a strong film, regardless. Um, like just not even animation wise, I just feel like it was a strong film for the year. I thought there were some pretty good lessons in it, and it's a family flick. It's for everybody, so recommend.
Alrighty, thank you for that, Jason. Now, JP.
Yeah, this film should come with a fucking trigger warning. Because oh my gosh, like they treated these writers hated their main character. It was terrible, but thankfully, it's in service to the story. So, but all in all, yeah, it's a great movie. I really did like the music. It's and sure, I didn't like the horse thing. I didn't like the water thing either. I have thoughts about Toy Story 4 that we'll never talk about because no one should recommend that movie on this thing that we're doing. But all in all, great film. I guess my only real qualm is, and this is a plea for Disney, stop with the fucking Frozen jokes and Frozen references. We don't need that shit anymore. The last Frozen joke should have been Frozen 2 because that movie was awful. But yeah, no more. Just let it go. But all
Wait, is there a
Oh
Frozen joke in
no,
this
get
movie?
out, JP. You can't
Proud of
make
yourself?
that and make a Frozen joke at the same time. Just leave.
it'll be the last one.
Also, I didn't catch a single Frozen thing, but then again, I haven't really fully watched that
Where is the
film. So
Frozen joke in this movie? I didn't. I
When
don't think I
Bruno's
saw it either.
talking.
Bruno, in the last song that they do when they're rebuilding the house,
Mhm.
Bruno says "Let it go" and he throws like petals in the air. And I saw this in the ending credits. They literally credit the fucking song.
Mm.
They credit like it's like they saw the movie in like the B reels or the dailies and like Robert Lopez and his wife, like Robert Lopez was the one that made Frozen, and he also made Avenue Q. Like I could imagine him just walking in and seeing that shit. He's like, "Who the fuck did this? Did Lin get permission to do this?" It's like I like put my name on this fucking movie. That's my
well,
baby.
Lin likes to call out when whatever music if he does a little tune or anything
Yeah,
or just an emphasis of saying let it go, he's gonna be like this
he's
is from
gonna
here.
because that I do remember in watching Hamilton, which is also on Disney Plus. We reviewed it already. In the credits for Hamilton 2, there's a bunch of little fucking asterisks for all the references he made. So you know what? Maybe you're right, Dino. Maybe that
The
was just
the
Lin
Yes,
being
the
it's
just
hip
fucking
hop.
cheeky.
That's what hip hop is.
Did he have to credit
the
all the references though?
Yes.
the Hamilton
Yes.
credits needed an intermission itself of how much references there were in
Like,
the
I can
credits.
point to you the case in like the 1990s, like when they were hammering down on rap being sold illegally in the streets. That's what they went after, was the copyrights, because at the end of the day, that's what hip hop was samples, which was taken from other songs.
We did not need to know that a single beat in one of the songs was a reference to "Singing in the Rain" somehow.
Yep.
We did not need to know that.
Lin goes over the top, which I appreciate, because in a time where people just kind of do it and then, like just ask for forgiveness later, and it's just like, I've made millions of dollars, and then it's like, oh yeah, this kind of, I like Lin being like, no, you know what, we are all inspired by everything around us. So if something inspired me, I'm gonna give it a little nod, because he does it, and it's sometimes not even music that he puts in there. So I'm totally cool with just like, this inspired me, this moved me. I'm gonna, give a nod to it. So I'm fine with that.
Well, Lynn is only our second favorite Puerto Rican, and I think Jason has a query for our favorite Puerto Rican.
It will after my final thought.
You're interrupting our favorite Puerto Rican.
Yeah. So my final thought of this movie was that this movie was great, man. Animation absolutely outstanding. The music was great. There's some good ones. There's some not so great ones, but to each their own. There's a little bit sprinkled there for everybody. I did enjoy that the movie itself, just like Michaela was saying, there wasn't necessarily an evil character per se, but it was more about the pursuit and the unity itself of this family and them finding their own true identity and kind of living in congruence with it and just accepting people for who they are, really, not just for their gifts and talents or what they do for the family itself. And I like, just like Dino, I do feel like this movie is a two-parter, but you do need that first part in order to get that really amazing landing at the end. Because almost like how the movie sort of begun, that's how it ended, but everybody was changed because of what they went through in this journey. And I really enjoy that. Would I recommend this movie? Absolutely. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to people that legit just hate musicals. And I partially put myself in that category, but this is one movie that is just, man, it's just a beauty to see people, even if they're animated, that kind of look like you. Like, it's so refreshing to just see characters that are not just white. And one thing for sure that I definitely want to make note of is that, yes, all of us are grown-ups, at this point. We're grown people, we pay bills and rent and stuff like that. But we got to think also of the children, of the generation coming up and everything. And in a way, at least one of my favorite movies growing up was Toy Story, like JP referenced. Not 4, I haven't even seen 4, but like the first one was one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't even know how many times I watched that movie when I was a kid. And there's Lion King and Aladdin and all this stuff. And now these kids growing up, that a lot of people are mixed from all different types of backgrounds. They see a movie like this, and it's so refreshing to see. Maybe you can't relate necessarily to the main character or something like that, but someone from the background, someone from the ensemble, you are going to identify with this movie because it just shows all these different colors that there are in the world, and I love it so much. So that's my final thought.
Right on. So, Steve, that concludes this week's review of Encanto. What do you got for us next week?
Next week, so I already went, so I kind of can't go again unless this is a dictatorship, which it isn't. So I think up next is Michaela.
Oh boy, what do you got for next week? What would you?
All right, y'all. All right, simmer down.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, your choices this week are going to be Jennifer's Body or Will You Ever Forgive Me? Or Can You Ever Forgive Me? So,
can you put the first one, Jennifer's Body?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that was written by Diablo Cody, right?
Something like that. All right.
I don't know.
So number 1 choice, Jennifer's Body. Number 2 choice, Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Okay.
So,
When do we vote?
you tell us, Michaela.
All right. Well, whenever you guys are ready, do
How are we gonna do it?
1 for Jennifer Body
Oh.
and 2 for Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Can someone pitch this 2 movies? I have no idea.
No,
Or let me
no,
get
we
a
can't,
coin.
Dino. We can't do it.
Let me. I need a coin or something to flip. All right, I'm flipping this. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Repeal HB 56. Okay, I got my vote. I have.
Okay.
I got it.
I got
All
mine.
right. Sweet. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Fantastic. So, Can You Ever Forgive Me is what we are
Nice.
watching next week.
I love comedies. I can't wait to watch this Melissa McCarthy obvious comedic movie. This will be such a joy. I can't wait for the jokes. I loved her on SNL. I can't wait for this. I bet it's funny.
And I bet you if you stuck around, you're going to enjoy this joke. We'll catch you next week. For Michaela, JP, Jason Alcos, Aldantino, Steve, TV. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm JP Cerno and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Hi, I'm JP Cerno and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Fucking shit. Okay. Hey, I'm JP Cerno and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Right? Jesus Christ. And as soon as it's the third one, because this is the third one, right? I am JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Oye Dimelo. Super cut of every time I fuck it up. Hey, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Hey, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo Network. And click here for additional videos, and don't forget to subscribe. The lonely singles in your neighborhood already did.